here from the Career Services Center. So we're going to be doing a tutorial today over cover letters. So a lot of the main questions we get about cover letters is how do you write one? What do you include in a cover letter? What's the purpose of it? And do I really have to write one of those? So we're going to be answering those questions in this tutorial today and kind of helping you get an idea for how do I write a cover letter? What do I use it for? How does it help me in my job search? So without further ado, let's get into it.
So let's talk about how to write a cover letter that's going to land you the job that you're applying for. For today's discussion, we're going to be answering the common questions asked about cover letters, such as what is a cover letter, what do you include in a cover letter, what do you leave off of a cover letter, and how do you submit a cover letter appropriately. So let's start with what is a cover letter and what's the purpose of writing one. So the cover letter is a tool to help introduce yourself in a memorable, personal way during a job application. A well-crafted cover letter goes over information on your resume and expands this information for the reader, taking them on a guided journey of some of your greatest career and life achievements. When starting to write any cover letter, it's always best to plan the content of your letter based on the requirements of the job you're applying for. Your resume is intended to lay out the facts, but your cover letter is meant to convey more of your personality. The cover letter is your first introduction to the person who may hire you, and its goal should be to make you as memorable as possible in a good way. That means writing a unique cover letter for every job you apply to. No templates, no pre-written nonsense. The format of your cover letter should also match the company and the industry you're applying to. Successful cover letters go something like this. Has a memorable introduction, has specific organized examples of relevant work done and problem solved, and a concise conclusion with a call to action. Next, let's look at what do you need to include in your cover letter and how do you write that information into your cover letter. So you shouldn't try to fit your whole career and life into the space of your cover letter. It should be a carefully created selection of stories from your career that gives the reader a clear idea of who you are and how you can add value to their company. The Society for Human Resources surveyed organizations on resumes, cover letters, and interviews and found that the top 3 things that must be included in a cover letter are how a candidate's work experience meets the job requirements, how a candidate's skills meet the job requirements, and why a candidate wants to work at the organization. Your cover letter needs to provide this information and leave the reader convinced that you are the right person for the job. To accomplish this, you should be using the requirements of the job to dictate the content of your cover letter and following these best practices. Show how you can solve specific problems. Saying you're a problem solver is about as helpful as explaining your preference for chocolate croissants over regular croissants. Don't tell them about your amazing problem-solving skills, but explain the details of a particular problem you were key in solving and how exactly you employed your skills to solve it. Better yet, if you know the company has a particular problem you could help solve, outline how you can help solve it. Let's talk about who to address the letter to. Now, it's fine to just use dear sir, madam, or to whom it may concern when addressing the recruiter. In fact, I can tell you from experience that most people use precisely these words. However, I can also tell you that most people don't get the job. If you want to make a strong impression, then take the time to find out who you're addressing. You may have to make a few phone calls or try several searches before you find the right name. But the harder they are to find, the less likely other applicants are doing the same thing, and the more impressed they will be with you for taking the time to research and find them. Tell your story. Telling stories from your career is a great way to demonstrate your skills and give hiring managers some insight into your personality and work style. When looking for the right stories to tell, always look to the requirements for the position in the job description. It's also helpful to research the company further online to get a sense for the company's culture. Before drafting your cover letter, compare your skills with the requirements for the position. For example, let's say you're applying for a marketing director position. Among other aspects in the description, the job requires several years of marketing experience, a deep knowledge of lead generation, and strong communication skills. You could describe how, in your previous role as a marketing manager, you ran several campaigns for your clients and exceeded their expectations of lead generation. And how you also trained and mentored new associates on how to manage their own accounts, which improved client retention rates. But it's not just telling a story, but telling a compelling story. Everyone loves a good story, and recruiters and hiring managers are no exception. Telling compelling stories from your career will make your cover letter unique and memorable for whoever reads it. Just be sure that the stories you choose demonstrate proficiency with the skills, tools, and concepts that are required by the job you're applying for. What makes this company your go-to choice? Why is this company special to you? Perhaps you're attracted to the workplace culture, or perhaps you have always admired the business philosophy that the company lives by. Whatever it is, be sure to include that. Also, remember, honesty is the only policy. Dishonesty on your cover letter isn't in your best interest. Implying or stating that you have a skill that you don't actually have will come back to bite you upon being asked to use that skill in the interview or on the job. And lastly, end with a call to action. End your letter with a reason for them to contact you. But don't add remarks like, "I'll call to schedule an interview." That doesn't make you a go-getter. It crosses a boundary. Instead, let the call to action be polite and open-ended, suggesting that you are excited to offer more information and that you're looking forward to talking with them. Now let's kind of look at the breakdown of a cover letter. So your header is going to be at the top of the page, and it's going to include your personal information. It's going to be the same exact as your resume and your reference page. You're going to address the letter, put the date that you are sending the cover letter, and then like we talked about earlier, you're going to put the person's information and the company information of a specific person, whether it be a recruiter or an HR representative or someone at that company that you're going to research and find to address this letter. In the first paragraph, this is where you're going to have your memorable introduction. You're going to avoid cliche starts, you're going to highlight what you know about the company and why you want to work for them, and the position you are applying for. Remember, we want to start with that hook. We want to grab the reader's attention and keep them reading and engaged throughout the rest of your cover letter and onto your resume. The second paragraph is really where you're going to sell yourself. So you're going to highlight your career achievements, accomplishments, relevant experiences and skills, and really tell your story that highlights relevant things you've done in conjunction with the position that you're applying for. And we want to be able to show the recruiter or employer that you are the perfect candidate for this job. You can also do a compare and contrast of your skills compared to what they're looking for in a candidate to kind of showcase, I have what you're looking for and maybe even beyond that. But we're really wanting to highlight what it is that makes you the most qualified candidate. So don't be afraid to sell yourself in this paragraph. And lastly, we're going to thank them for their time. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to have a call to action statement that leaves them wanting to call you, email you, and get further information about it and showcases that you are interested in this position, in this company, and you're ready to move on to the next step. So it's really simple, nothing too crazy. We're just really thanking them for their time, encouraging them to reach out to you, encourage yourself to be enthusiastic about hearing back from them, and that's it. And then lastly, you're going to sign off. Sincerely, your name, and that's really it for your breakdown of a cover letter. So now that we've kind of talked about what a cover letter should include and how it should be set up, let's kind of segue into what do you leave off of a cover letter and why you shouldn't include certain things on it. So we talked about the first one a little bit earlier, but let's talk about why we don't address the letter "to whom it may concern" or "dear Mr. or Madam." This gives us the impression that you have not done your research about the company. Employers get numerous cover letters that are addressed vaguely and give off a sense of, I'm a general cover letter that was sent off to 50 other employers. And we want to avoid this. We want the employer to be pleasantly surprised and start off on a good note by showcasing you've done your research. Now let's talk about avoiding overused phrases. The average cover letter is going to be extremely generic and contain overused expressions such as, "Thank you for taking the time to look at my resume," or "I believe that my set of skills make a great fit for the job." And while none of these lines hurt your chance of getting the job, they certainly don't help either. Career coach Angela Copeland says, stay away from phrases that are known to annoy hiring managers, such as heavy lifting or think outside the box or game changer. And here are some more phrases that make recruiters and hiring managers groan with frustration. To whom it may concern, I'm not sure if you know, dynamic, please feel free, significant, self-starter, detail-oriented, forward-thinking, really, truly, deeply. Recruiters and hiring managers go through hundreds of cover letters and get tired of these cliches. They're waiting for something new and refreshing to come along, and it's in your best interest to do so. Last thing to leave off your cover letter is irrelevant information. Just like we tailor your resume to a specific job, the same thing needs to be done for the cover letter. Never include irrelevant information in your cover letter because it can confuse or bore the reader, causing them to miss important points in your cover letter. We want to highlight your relevant education, experiences, skills, etc. that show you are the perfect candidate and don't give off the impression that you didn't do the work to tailor your cover letter for that specific job. In this last section, we're going to look at how do you submit a cover letter and land the job. So the longer you sit on a cover letter to edit and rewrite it, the longer you prolong the opportunity for someone else to get the attention of the hiring manager you want to impress. You should submit your cover letter as soon as you are certain that your cover letter, resume, and portfolio work are free of errors. Have another person read over your documents to double check for you so that you don't send in professional documents with grammatical errors. Your cover letter is written in a way that balances professionalism with personality. Your cover letter catches the reader's interest from the first sentence and maintains it throughout. And your cover letter gives uses the requirements for the job and information on the company as a guide for its content. Your cover letter tells stories that are filled with examples that satisfy job requirements and make you stand out positively as an individual and a potential employee. If you have any questions, reach out to Career Services. You can reach us by phone at 713-525-3160, at email career.services@sttom.edu. And if you're ready to make an appointment, schedule an appointment on Handshake with one of our career development specialists at sttom.joinhandshake.com. Thank you for taking the time to watch this tutorial on cover letters. We hope that you found this information useful and helpful along your career journey. And remember that your Career Services Center is here to help you along every part of your career journey. So do not feel afraid to reach out to us and ask us for questions. Thank you.